It's Epic Web3 Podcast. My name is Alex. I'm co-founder of Epic Web3. We make professional events for Web3 builders. Our next event is in DevConnect in Istanbul. I think our current guest from Taiko will also be there. Don't forget to join us. All the information is at epicweb3.com. And my co-host today again is Andy. What's up?
Yo, yeah, I'm gonna be there too, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and our guest is Daniel Wang, CEO and co-founder of Taiko, an Ethereum-equivalent ZK-Rollup. Right? Hi, Daniel.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Alex and Andy.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. So, Daniel, you are in Singapore now, right? You live there, right?
Yes, I live in Singapore. I used to live in Shanghai, China, but I moved to Hong Kong and then Singapore. So I travel, between Hong Kong and Singapore quite frequently nowadays.
Nice. Yeah. First of all, there's a huge time difference between you and Andy. So thank you guys for being flexible and finding a time to connect. So if you're in Asia, what do you think is the best place to be if you're building a Web3 product?
Well, it depends on the nature of your product. I mean, if you are building a product that is finance center like DeFi or something, maybe Hong Kong is a good place to consider because the policy is more friendly. You can see that on a monthly basis. If you are trying to build some small apps, social apps, games, probably Vietnam or South Korea or even Japan. I think a lot of people go to Japan because the housing price is really reasonable. In Hong Kong, it's really hard to find engineers there, and the price, the living expense is high. So a lot of people go to Vietnam because of the cost of living is more reasonable there. So we even have our own engineers traveling around in Southeast Asia and mostly in Vietnam.
And why did you choose Singapore by your own?
So we have a few employees here in Singapore. I enjoy living here because it's socially not more like a stable and little to concern, and it's a good place to raise family. And school, everything is good. But again, in Singapore is the same problem. It's really hard to find engineers here, and the living expense is now even higher than Hong Kong.
Is there a lot of capital allocators in that part of the world allocating to crypto right now? I just keep hearing these narratives that the Eastern Hemisphere is going to lead the next bull run, and the funds are buying all of our bags. Like, are in any of those circles, kind of what's happening on the institutional level there?
Well, first of all, I don't really have firsthand information because I don't talk to those institutions myself from a fundraising perspective. And I'm kind of like antisocial right nowadays. I don't really talk to a lot of people. I just focus on my own project and code a lot. But according to my friends or people around me, because of the some events happening last year. I think FTX, notably. I think in Singapore, people, the big institutions, they take a pause. They don't really invest into Web3. They don't say that, but they don't take actions. They are still waiting because they need to digest their failure a little bit, So I think they are waiting for the market to warm up, and then they will probably be more cautious and not to invest in a big chunk of money into some projects. So I think even in Hong Kong, I think even the policy is friendly, but if you read those policies carefully, you will notice that it's really just friendly to institutional players. So there are not a lot of opportunities for Web3 people like me. if I go to Hong Kong, it's probably really hard to grab any opportunity there. So I think there are still a gap between Web3 entrepreneurs and the institutional, investment firms. So there's a lack of that kind of bridge. So I don't know whether Asia is going to lead the next bull run. Well, if China's market is not open, then it's pretty hard. I mean, in Singapore, if you talk to the locals, and they are not so crazy about crypto. I mean, a lot of people hold some crypto, but they're not like the Chinese investors. They they create those pumps, right? But I think in Singapore, in Hong Kong, people are more like rational. But I think like Vietnam, Thailand, Southeast Asia, and South Korea may help to create a next bull run. Yeah, because those people are also pretty like crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Taiko's team is fully distributed across Europe, North America, Asia, right? So you have employees all over the world.
We don't have people in Africa so far. So
Okay.
yeah, I think our team is distributed among like 20 countries. We only have like 32 or I think 32 people. So it's fairly distributed. Yeah, it has pros and cons.
Is it hard to manage all these time zones?
Well, I think we are used to it. We usually have quite some Zoom calls on a weekly basis, but not a lot. I mean, I'm not actively managing the team at all. The team is like self-driven. We often have small team meetings, quite a few. Uh, uh, but sometimes it's challenging to find a good time slot to meet. So some of our engineers, they don't sleep until like 4 a.m. in the morning. So like my CTO, Brett, never sleeps before 4 a.m. He's used to it. I mean, just because he used to work for Loopring with me. So that's the only way that we can, keep a good communication channel. So he sacrificed his own like habit and just get, so I benefit from his flexibility. And there are a lot of other people who also like wake up earlier or sleep really late to, be able to talk to the team. But in general, I think it's still very challenging. For this project, for Taiko, it's not possible to hire everybody in one location because we need to find ZK people, and ZK people are just like everywhere. You cannot find in one location. So I really wish we can, sit together in one office to like brainstorm, to discuss face to face. That would be amazing. I mean, the efficiency will be greatly like boost up, right? But right now, this is the only way going forward. And I almost feel like there's no going back to the old ways of working together in one office. People, some of the people I know in crypto, they don't want to see people, in the same office often. Like once or twice a week is enough. So I feel like maybe if I was put into the same office with the whole team, maybe I was going to be bored. So that's how it is, and we'll keep it that way.
And you said that you're not managing people mostly. So what is your focus as a CEO? What do you do mostly?
Well, that's a good question. So I'm really not a good CEO because I still write code, which is not something
Who is?
Yeah. So sometimes, so I'm still writing protocol code, and I kind of manage the project's overall progress, and I also join in discussions regarding like how to do marketing, how to launch testnets, how to build the community, whether we should invest in some like future killer app, etc. So all kinds of topics. But managing people is the least thing I want to do. Usually we just say, okay, every quarter, everybody write a self-review, and you can optionally write peer reviews for other people, and then we collect those together. I don't want to write a review for all the teammates, right? So I don't want to dictate, say, hey, this one is doing great, that one is doing bad. Let the team vote for each other and give feedback to each other. So it's really flat, and we just work mostly like a peers. So
Nice.
I enjoy that, but of course, maybe some of my teammates won't agree. But I would say, this I enjoy this kind, not so intensive. Like, so I don't want them to feel like they are being managed. I feel like ideally they should enjoy working at Taiko and just feel like they are working on something they are really interested in, and the thing they work on will eventually be used by someone else. So this sense of achievement is really important. Um, After all, we are not here. Most people are not hired to just get salary. They really are committed to build something new, something they are interested in. So I hope that's the case for most people here at Taiko. Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. So speaking about Taiko, Taiko is a so-called Type 1 ZK-Rollup, right? Which means that you try to be as much equivalent to Ethereum as possible.
Yes.
Can you tell us why did you choose this approach, and why is it so important to be Ethereum equivalent?
I think it's technically possible. Like a few years back, if you talk about Type 1 level, like equivalency, that's not even possible, right? So now I think it's possible, although it's still very challenging. I think we choose to go down this very challenging path, implementation, technical, decision making. But the other approach, the alternative approach, is also very challenging. You can create something like type 2, type 5 ZK-EVM, right? It's easier. But when you go to market, it's even harder for you to go to market. You have to talk to like maybe MetaMask to add another like signature algorithm there, right? To support another signature. You may need to work with your own, you may need to invest in your own wallet, mobile wallet. Another version of like Gnosis Safe, multi-sig, those kind of infrastructure. So we choose the hard way, but once we are done, then the go-to-market message is going to be straightforward, right? It's Ethereum scaled. Nothing in your code have to be changed. No re-auditing. No more testing. If you don't like Taiko, go away, choose another one. There's a zero cost, and you don't have to bet Taiko is going to be the future layer 2, like the ultimate winner, right? So we just want to lower the decision making cost for all the potential dApps that we'll try to deploy on Taiko. So I think that's the major, that's the majority of the like the reasons why we want to go with Type 1. We would like to enjoy the existing tooling, not to invent our own, because there are a lot of things to do to really offer a full solution for dApp developers.
If you could briefly explain the differences between Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, 4, and 5, as well as the design choices.
Oh, you got me. Haven't really looked at the revisit Vitalik's blog for quite some time, but let me just say this: the Type 1, you don't change the signature algorithm, right? You don't change the hash algorithm. You keep all the opcode. You support all the pre-compiles. You keep the storage structure, which is the Patricia Merkle tree. So basically, you just use everything. So for all kinds of apps or smart contracts, developed before 4844 is totally compatible. You don't have to change anything, as I said. But after this, the next hard fork, if you develop something to use the blob transaction, the 4844 EIP, then the new opcode is not going to be supported. So when we say type 1, we really mean is compatible on the execution layer, because the blob data is in the consensus layer, a feature offered by the consensus layer. So we as a layer 2 doesn't have a consensus layer, so we can offer blob. So although we say we are type 1, it's not really another copy of Ethereum. It's just the Ethereum execution layer scaled. So if you go to like type 2, you may change something like your hash algorithm, right? Maybe you choose your, if you go to further to like type 5, maybe you don't have the same virtual machine. You have your own like virtual machine. You have your own opcodes, like your own programming language, etc. So it's totally incompatible with Ethereum. So basically, that's it.
It's okay.
I just remember I was at StarkNet CC this past year, and Vitalik briefly went over them. And
yeah, so I think I really believe Type 1 has a chance to win the competition, but I also feel like the Type 5 thing, the totally incompatible in like Stockware, right? You have a new language, a new set of opcode, a new virtual machine, everything is new. It's still they still have a chance to win if they can do they can make sure the tooling, everything is good enough. But something in the middle, I'm really not so optimistic. I mean, if you have to go to use the EVM, the Solidity language, Type 1 will be the future. But if you use like a Carry or something, although I don't really know much about Carry and the pros and cons, but I think a new language, if done designed correctly, maybe it can offer some great developer experience.
Yeah, our latest podcast was with Cartesi. They're building an alternative VM, actually Cartesi VM, and we talked a lot about the limitations of the EVM. So what do you think? When is the EVM the best option, and when does it make sense to use some alternative VMs?
Yeah, I think still the tooling and the current developer base, they use this virtual machine the most. Closely the second probably is Carry or something else. I don't know. So if we really want to attract a lot of dApps in the next year or two, then trying to attract those developers is still the most feasible approach. So we don't want to build something new and educate to build a new developer community, right? That's even harder. I think most newcomers, new developers who want to build their first app, they will probably develop on top of Ethereum, because making a decision, say, okay, build on Stockware, is probably hard. I mean, unless there are like economic incentives. So people will say, okay, build on Ethereum first and scale only you need to scale, right? Only when you have enough users. So we feel like a lot of these like first-time developers, since they choose Ethereum, let them choose Ethereum. Don't try to talk to them to use Taiko first. But when they are ready to scale, we can tell them more about Taiko, and hopefully they can give us a try. And if the experience is good enough, they will probably stay, right? So that's the rationale. I think this is a valid approach within the next 2 to 5 years. But as I said, if there's another VM, another language becomes so much better, then the first the programming language for the new developer may be that language. Who knows, right? So, but we are not there yet.
Speaking about dApps and dApp developers, I ask all of our guests the same question. So, do you think the infrastructure is ready to onboard new dApps, or do we still need to do something? Need to solve some challenges before?
I would say not really. I mean, if you want to prototype something, right? Yeah, you can do it now. You could do it like 2 years ago, right? But if you really want to onboard a million user, a million active user, 10 million active user, right? I don't think it's ready at all. Um, I don't even think layer twos combined will be ready within 2 years. I think it will take like more than 2 years to make sure layer twos are ready, not only in terms of throughput and the cost being low enough. It also means like layer twos will be decentralized and censorship resistant enough. Um, if you look at all the current layer two offerings, most of them are still very centralized. So if I
Exactly.
want to build a social app that I really want to advocate like freedom of speech, uh, I'm sure it will be banned on current layer twos. So I think it really depends on what kind of apps you are talking about, right? For small social apps to create a meme, maybe it's okay, but I think for massive users, it's still not. And like account abstraction, which is supposed to boost the user experience, I think it's still not totally ready yet, right? And the account is still very expensive to create, so you still need layer tools to support account abstraction to make all the smart contract deployment, the multi-sig stuff, the gasless transactions cheaper than it is. So I think in general, it's not ready yet. So that's good for us. We see the opportunity. We see that layer twos will play a very important role in the overall scalability. So I think that's one of the reasons I want to build a layer two, not some other app.
So your take is that we will not see mass adoption in the next several years?
Maybe at least next 2 or 3 years, I don't think there will be massive adoption. There will be adoption. There will be more token holders for sure, but they probably
Okay.
don't have to be active users, transactors on chain.
You said about decentralization. So can you elaborate a bit on why is it so important to be decentralized if you are building a layer two or some other protocol?
If you use Uniswap, right? If you want to provide liquidity on layer one, you really don't worry about anything. I mean, except, well, unless the smart contract has a bug, then there's nothing you need to worry about. But let's say if you are given this chance to provide liquidity on a centralized layer two, then you are probably going to worry a lot about whether you will be able to withdraw your money, right? Whether you are going to be your withdrawal transaction will be like ever included in the block, right? So that's just one example. I mean, the final, if you look at the end game, I think all the transactions on layer one on Ethereum should be roll-up transactions. And those transactions will probably pay higher gas fees because they encapsulate a lot of layer two transactions, so they can make money out of those transactions and then be able to pay the high fee on layer one. So that will drive away normal users on layer one. So DeFi apps will eventually all move to layer twos, I believe. But now it's not possible. Even I don't want to move my liquidity from layer one to any layer two, even when they offer a lot of like reward or yield, right? I just don't want to, lose my money to chase for a higher yield. So security for DeFi is very important, and that security is guaranteed by the level of decentralization, right? You really don't really care about whether the transaction fee is higher, because if you have like 1 million, 10 million on layer one, the security is something you care the most. Like social app is another type of apps that needs to be deployed on top of a decentralized layer two. If you create a profile and then that profile is banned or is like disabled, and you cannot transact more, then what's the difference between like Twitter and a social dApp, right? If we say we want to extend Ethereum, I think by definition that means extend Ethereum by keeping a lot of its nice properties. We cannot just say its performance is better, but it's not centralized. It doesn't make sense. I mean, at least it's not so sexy to me. So that's why when we built Taiko, we say, okay, the first goal is to make sure this one is this network is not owned by us. We don't control the network. But that's somewhat true, somewhat not true, because during the initial couple of years, upgradability require you have some special privilege. So that's another different type of centralization, because if most of the people who has the private key are taken into custody, then you still lose control. I mean, the network is out of control, right? So that's the human level centralization. But on the node level, I think our change should be as decentralized as possible, and hopefully, very close to the level of decentralization of Ethereum, because we are a base rollup. So we use Ethereum validators to actually, no, it's not correct to say that. We gave Ethereum validators the chance to sequence our transactions. So ideally, it's going to be the best approach of decentralizing the layer two. Yeah. So we really prioritize decentralization and permissionlessness. That's the core value. Otherwise, I'd rather not offer something to the community.
My question is, what about the distribution? So, okay, for example, you can be the social app can be uncensored, but if they still distribute it through App Store or Google Play, it's still they still can be banned or something. What do you think? How should we solve this in the future?
Right. That's a really nice one. I think. Yeah. So we still use Web2 infrastructures like the domain name servers, right? So if you want to have a domain name, that is centralized, right? No perfect solution, but when I think of the social app I want to build, the way I see it is, you should just start your own local server, and it starts a node connecting to other nodes. You don't really join you don't open a website, right? To visit a server. You have to have your own server, and that server can be a spin up anytime, anywhere, and nobody knows who you are, right? You are just identifiable by this private key, which you can change on a regular basis, or you can use like Tornado Cash to hide some transactions and create a new one. So that's, of course, will sacrifice the user experience, because if you ask like my sister, my mom to start a server, it's not going to be possible. But if you ask them to download the app from App Store or Google Play, then it's centralized, because that app will have to connect to a server. Maybe you can change the server like endpoint, but it's changing the endpoint is still a technical like operation, right? So yeah, I agree. So it's not going to offer a smooth user experience and then enjoy the full level of decentralization. But maybe we can have something in the middle. For example, there are still some relayers, or aggregators down there, and they build this like central servers you can join, but if one of them abandon you or is not accessible, you can switch to another one. You can hop around multiple endpoints, and then you get the same information. Your identity, your assets are guaranteed because it's on the blockchain. So you just need to have multiple those kind of like relayers rather than one central server like the Twitter data center, right? So I think it's totally wrong to require a user to start a node on the local host, unless this guy is a hacker. They really want to hide anything from any relayer, so that's possible. But for most people, they can just hop around. If I go to Hong Kong, I connect to Hong Kong. If I go to Singapore, I connect to a Singapore one. So there may be some other like services who can help you to index those relayers so you can find new ones. So I'm just saying, I'm just imagining what kind of social app I would like to build. But I think there will be a balance between user friendliness or user experience and security or a level of decentralization. You cannot get both. It's really hard to get both.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree.
I was curious about the differences between Taiko ZK EVM and some of the existing ZK EVMs currently, and how you guys plan to position.
Sure. So when we start this project, we didn't start our own ZK EVM effort. We joined PSE, the Ethereum Foundation's PSE group. When Taiko started, the PSE team already have some code there. I think Scroll also contributed some opcode, etc. So when we joined, we worked on a few things. The Patricia Merkle tree is the first thing we worked on, which is a really challenging and complicated circuit. This is not purely done by Taiko. I think is a joint effort of some engineers from Ethereum Foundation and us. And then we also work on the K-check circuit. Besides that, we also shared a circuit that invalids some transactions. So if the transaction is invalid, we can prove it's invalid. So this one is also used by the PSE team as well. So right now, I think we are focusing mainly on our own circuits. So this PSE group's repo is our repo. We don't really have anything private. So all the code we wrote, the circuit code we wrote, we contribute back to the PSE group, and they are reviewed by PSE and other teams. So a lot of code are shared by like Taiko, PSE, and Scroll, like the opcode, because Type 2 also use the same opcode and precompiles. So this part can be shared by like Scroll. But some other code like the Patricia try and the K-check is only used by us and PSE. Of course, PSE really don't have a like product plan. So that means we are the only party who are currently using the code in production or in testnet. That side, I think right now we are also investigating into like using ZK VM. Like ZK EVM is cool, but it's really a big code base. And the current one of the challenges is that if the block is constructed in a way to prevent it from being provable by ZK EVM, it can be done. Let's say you want to access a lot of stories without doing anything else. You just want to read stories. So that will use the the Patricia Merkle tree proof, which is pretty expensive. And so that kind of blocks cannot be provable cannot be proven by PSZK EVM. So the current solution is really to break things into chunks. So regardless how big the block is, you can always prove small chunks and then aggregate those chunks together. So if that's done, then there will be no issue with the PSE approach. But that side, writing circuits using Halo 2 is error prone. Is not fun. So ideally, we can just write this program in Rust and then run this program and generate a zero knowledge proof. Right. This is the ZK-VM approach. So we have briefly tested like risk zero, and we are now focusing on this powder project. So I think in the future, maybe 2 years, 5 years later, the ZK-VM approach, this general approach, is going to be feasible. Although the time to generate proofs will be much longer than ZK-EVM, but ZK-VM is like less error prone, and you can easily change your rollup logics without touching anything circuit related. So if that's the case, that would be great. But the current problem is that there's no fully open sourced ZK-VM solution that are currently working for us. But that's I think that's the direction to go in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely insightful to know that the same opcodes are used across the board, and there's specific differences with regards to kind of how you choose to use different parts of the stack. There's different kind of teams involved now. You mentioned Risk Zero. I've been hearing a lot about them as well. So that's super interesting. And I think the last time I spoke to Mick in Paris, you guys were on the Alpha 4 kind of testnet and moving towards getting more active and getting the community more involved. Where are you guys at now and at the date of this podcast? And over the next couple months going into Q1, what's on the agenda?
That's a good question. So we have offered 5 testnets. So the latest one is the Alpha 5. We verified a lot of design decisions. So far, I think we are happy with the tokenomics and the base rollup design. We will probably launch A6 Alpha 6 in November to test another design with the multi-proof thing. And then once the Duncan hard fork happens, we will have to test the 4840 of the blob transaction. So that will take another testnet, which is Alpha 7. And then after that, I think we are almost done. Unless there's some new development, I think somewhere early next year, I think we are going to launch a mainnet. So that's the plan.
Are you going to do an airdrop when you launch a mainnet?
I think why not? Why not?
What an answer!
Yeah, we haven't really have anything concrete, but I'm not against. I think first of all, if Taiko is a decentralized network, there will be tokens on day one. Otherwise, it won't work, right? And secondly, if there are tokens, we need people to use our network. And some people will still need our token to do something. Like if they want to propose block or they want to prove block, they need our tokens. So we need to give them tokens. We cannot say buy tokens and join us. We need to give tokens away and say, hey, use those tokens to try Taiko, right? Try Taiko as an operator or something. So that's why I think some people really need some tokens to be part of the network. So I think another thing is airdrop is a common practice. Sometimes you need a strong argument not to do the airdrop. So I don't have those arguments. So probably, yeah, why not?
I was just gonna I was going to ask a different question about whether or not you guys have dApps and infra partners and necessary kind of tooling so that way you launch, it's not like you're just somebody's
Mhm.
walking into an amusement park without any roller coasters. Like people want to
Sure.
walk into this amusement park and have rides. But if Alex
Mhm.
has something to say real quick before you answer, then we can go to that.
Yeah, so we have some infrastructure partners like node runners, like indexers, like maybe GraphDB, maybe um, if very soon the account abstraction, those infrastructures. um, for tooling, I think we don't really have to worry about tooling because being Type 1 ZK EVM, you can just use any tool you want to build your app on Ethereum, and that app will be able to be deployed on Taiko. So tooling is the least thing we worry about. So I think right now, I think we still have to find more partners, more like infrastructure level partners, like oracles, like um, maybe smart wallets, things like that. But it's really you can never say we have enough.
I think we still have a little time, and I would like to ask a couple of questions about fundraising. You raised 22 million so far, and it was over 2 rounds of funding, right? So the first round was last year, I think it was even before FTX, when things were still rather good in crypto, and the second right in the middle of the bear market. Was it a big difference between these two funding rounds?
The first round is really funny because I don't want to take money. I say I will self-invest into this effort. I don't want to get any money. So people chase me to offer their money. And the second time, we have to try to convince people, hey, this is a good solution. So the timing is different. The marketing, like the situation is different. And there are more layer tools coming up, right? So that's the competition is also intense. So it's going to be harder when the valuation goes up a lot. So right now the valuation goes to really high, much higher than the first 2 rounds. So it's going to be more challenging, but I think we can still do it. I mean, I'm really confident that in that offering, which is really unique compared to other rollups, and then we just need to make sure we have a good go-to-market strategy. So that's something we are busy working on. So in general, I
Okay.
think we are really okay because our burn rate is small. Even if we don't raise another round, I mean we are good enough to go with another 2 years at least. So nothing will prevent us from launching the mainnet. It's just a matter of a question of how, right? If you have more capital, you can do a lot of stuff, right? If you have less capital, you just be more like conservative. So this next round will decide how we go to market. But regardless, I think Taiko will be here competing with other layer tools as a unique solution. When the market is bullish, there will be more um, developers. There will be more users on chain. The Ethereum gas fee will go up, and they will look for alternative scaling solutions. And Taiko will be there, regardless whether we launch it with a lot of promotions, a lot of marketing or not. Right, the technology is the same. So I'm optimistic in the long run. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you recommend to founders who are raising money now during the bear market?
Whenever you can raise money, just raise it. Don't ask why. Don't you must have enough capital to sustain the worst case scenario, right? To go through the bear market. There's nothing worse than having no capital in your pocket and you have to waste your time talking to investors rather than focusing on your product. So we are lucky enough to be able to focus on the development, not to chase for money. So for any entrepreneurs, I think having capital secured is always the number one opportunity. Don't be like too optimistic, right?
And do you think it is better to raise money in tokens or equity now?
Well, that's a good question. I really don't have an answer. I feel like given this current global economy and if you raise equity and then your investor won't be able to liquid their investment, right? It's really hard to get listed on either in Chinese market or any like Nasdaq. It's hard. I mean, token, if you have a bull market, token liquidity is much better. I think investors, they really care about liquidity more than like the how many times you return it is now. So they hope they can get cash instead of like the getting a big number only on the book, right? So I feel like token. If I'm an investor, I only invest in tokens, not equity.
And before we wrap up, I have some real quick questions. So I'll start with the first. Hong Kong or Singapore?
Hong Kong for crypto.
Okay. Beijing or Shanghai?
Shanghai is more fun.
VC money or foundation grants?
Foundation grants.
Infrastructure products or dApps?
Infrastructure.
Modular blockchains or monolithic blockchains?
Modular.
Your favorite dApp?
Uniswap.
What is the most promising Web3 technology right now?
Taiko.
Yeah, okay. Besides.
Account abstraction, I would say.
Okay. And the last one.
Zero knowledge.
Sorry?
Zero knowledge proof.
Okay. Another one, yeah. And the last one, but not least, when is the next bull market? What do you think?
2 years ahead.
2 years. Okay. I gather these forecasts from different guests. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. It was a pleasure to talking to you. Unfortunately, Andy had a bad connection today, but he still could participate. So thanks for coming.
Thank you, Alex, for having me.